Welcome or welcome back. This is Agile Development of a Global IP Department. And here we have Christian Mohr and Tore Stjernberg from Electrolux. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kalle. Yeah, and probably if I look at the participants here, this is quite a familiar meeting here. I would like to encourage you in the beginning really to make this agile, ask questions, interact with us. And before we do that, probably I can introduce Tore a bit. Yeah, Tore is the leader of the Swedish IP team here in the Stockholm headquarters at Electrolux. Yeah, and I must say that we had a very nice journey together, and Tore and his team and my team work today quite closely with each other. This is what makes us very proud, right, Tore?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. It's been a great journey, and I'm very happy to be here and to share this experience with all of you, and also to listen to any questions that may come up. This is maybe a bit of a new animal in this profession, I think, but very exciting to be here. Thank you.
Let's introduce the people to what we are doing today. I would say, yeah. Let's create something. I have a sheet of paper for you, and I would just pass it over to you. You just take it, and then you write us and then you write us some notes here.
Yeah. So I think, Christian, let's start with how we started the Agile journey. So I write it here on note.
Yeah.
Please take it.
I just put it here. Thanks. Yeah. And then I put it onto our Kanban here. What did you say? Yeah. Start of the Agile journey. Let's time box this. Let's talk about this 15 minutes, and then we will move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say if we have made this introduction, we should talk and introduce the people about what Agile is about, right? The essentials, and then maybe also how we set it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That note. Yeah.
I put it onto our backlog.
Perfect. What else? How we set it up? That's the one. Good. What did we have next? Challenges and learnings, maybe? Could we one topic?
Yeah. Okay. Why not?
Yeah.
I think that's good. And then probably we also give an outlook how we take that from the future then.
Yeah.
Fine. And I would say this is our sprint here. Yeah, we will talk about this around the next 60 minutes, and you can interact with us here. And I mean, I'm from Germany and I'm very talkative. So the problem is that we have to time box this, but we also have to manage our work in progress. So Tore, please help me that we talk about everything and only one thing at the time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Just one thing at the time here.
So we put in a doing lane here, and then we probably just start and say, okay, now we go in this and that. And then in order to make this Kanban complete here, we just put a done lane in, and then we say, okay, fine, let's move to the next. I would do it like that if you are okay.
Yeah. Perfect. That makes sense. Total sense. Yeah.
Then I would say we start, right?
Yeah. So will you put the first task into the sprint here?
Yeah, super. Let's talk about the start of our Agile journey here.
Yeah.
Where did we come from? I mean, I remember that the first things here already happened long ago before we actually understood what Agile is, huh?
Yeah, right. I mean, in Group Pathos, we were in a traditional setup, I would say, working with projects in the Waterfall Model. We did the planning and everything, very structured and good. We had a very big project office where we started different projects and did the planning in a very structured and good way, I think.
Due date lists, right? And a lot of work on our shoulders. This is what I also remember.
That we had. It was a good setup, but we also experienced that Electrolux as a company did change quite a lot, right?
And maybe that then there is something which we also should say about the attorney as such. When I remember how I was raised and educated in the traditional law firm, it was always that you said a patent attorney must be very thorough, is not allowed to err. So a patent attorney can maybe be slow, but he should never make mistakes, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a bit the mindset which we have today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that was the situation. There was a shift in leadership, right?
Yeah, by the way, Hans is here. Hi, Hans. Greetings to you. This is our former boss who led this department 16 years. Yeah. And then left the boat.
Super. Great to have you here, Hans. Yeah.
Which brought us here also, yeah, a misery, because I think from there we had a lot of change in the leadership, but also we realized that there is change around us going on in the company. The company was talking more about becoming more agile, applying design thinking and innovation management, becoming consumer centric. Actually, I didn't understood fully in the start of the journey what that meant.
We sat down together and said we need to now in this phase that we were, we said that we need to still make sure that we have momentum in the change, so we are not stuck in the current situation. But how should we do that? That was
a bit
tricky.
Remember, you had you had done a workshop many years ago already with your team, right? Remember that one? That was a big learning, I think. Yeah.
The title of that workshop was "Failed Gloriously."
What? Why fail gloriously?
No, but this was from the theater side, where the people perform on stage, and they fail from time to time, and it's okay to fail there. But everyone that is part of the show should sort of help the person to fail gloriously. So if there is a failure, no one should really react to it. They should just continue the story as if nothing has happened. And it was important to have this mindset of helping each other to look good, and also build on each other's ideas, so to say. So the yes and attitude was very important from this.
What is that yes and?
Working. It's typically, you can sit in a meeting and a lot of ideas comes, and many times the first sort of reaction is a bit maybe to the critical side. So there's no sort of immediate embracement of the idea, and maybe that's right. That should be the case, but it's better to have a yes and build on each other's ideas, because it creates more positive energy and comfort each other in this setup. And then afterwards, you can sort of review and see what are the ideas that is actually relevant to continue on. But in that exact moment, you should have a yes and attitude. What's the outcome from this particular workshop? It was pretty fun.
So not immediately destroy the thoughts of the one who brings an idea up, but also embrace it and then maybe build on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the failing attitude, I understood, is also something like gaming culture, right? That you say, hey, let's try something out, and if it doesn't work, we can revoke it and we can do it better. And yes, and we do it better, something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I also think that was a bit needed, and maybe this is not the real attitude of a traditional patent attorney, right? He wants to be very thorough. He wants to appear very accurate. Yeah. I want to be perceived as an expert. I don't fail, actually. Yeah, never fail. Yeah, and then I think in March, around March, when we had yet another leader, we thought a bit about all the things which we see in front of us, right? If we lean back and look at our status quo, where we are, and I think this is one thing we can teach in the next minutes here. Start where you are is a very important principle, right? So we started where we are and we reflected a bit, right?
Yeah.
So embracing failure culture is something, I think, which, if we look at the traditional patent attorney, is probably not very prominent, right? And daring to fail. I think if you say fail gloriously, I also hear you encourage your team actually to try out things and let them fail and be proud of mistakes. Instead of hiding away and saying, oh my God, and maybe finger pointing to and say, you did that wrong.
Exactly. And these rules needs to be clear to everyone, I think. So in any kind of sort of presentation or deliverable, it's not about the failure, it's about feedback and the continuous improvement.
Ricardo, please unmute yourself and raise the question. I think this should be very interactive, and it's cool that you engage with us.
Yeah. I had several questions, but I said, okay, I can raise them now. Now it was in another part, but this one now we speak about this. You raised the point or the thesis that you says patent professionals, and I call everyone patent professional law firms and as well patent engineers, that they are so teach to don't make mistakes or so. And I have the thesis they still fail because it's part of the business. It's so complex or so, but what they do is failing silently. And for me, there are two levels. There's silently just for yourself and silently within the team, but never towards the client. The client will be always made happy. And for me as a service provider, what I can tell you is also the clients don't expect us to fail, which means it makes it very difficult on one hand to say fail gloriously. On the other hand, there's no acceptance towards the client. He doesn't pay for it.
But now we have to disclose that you support us also on this journey with some of your services. I mean, did you perceive us and a change of mindset towards you as a supplier also?
Yes, indeed. Because I had also some failures I made, but I think what I just learned from other clients is just this acceptance of failure. Somehow it's there, but it's really based on the relationship that you have. If you're a nameless supplier, like just a faceless supplier, you will be kicked out immediately. And if they like you, they give you more chances to learn. But somehow, or sometimes I also depict, you said about finger pointing, but what I just experienced with this failure culture is the client needs to have it as well. And sometimes you have this very vague statements or what you have to do, very, very little information available. Makes it super hard. And therefore fail gloriously and is one part. But if your client failed too, try to say that. That's the very first moment where you kill any supplier relationship. You failed. Sorry, client.
You're right. And if you anticipate, one of the things which we planned for later to talk about is your client must also be prepared for this journey. We have dared to show things, and then we realized, cool, but maybe the client does not understand fully what we do with him, because we show him something which is not perfect yet, and this is part of the journey, right, Tore?
Yeah, exactly. So actually, Ricardo, what you're referring to is maybe the waterfall model. You work in silence, and then you present, and then you sort of have a big failure instead of making small failures along the way, getting the feedback, and then in the end, you may have a very good product or counseling delivered to the client. Yeah, we will touch upon this a bit later, actually.
Yeah, particularly.
Yeah.
So yes, and go, Tore, please.
No, I think the time boxing here is, are we moving to?
We can do that. I mean, we can go to the next item here, and this would be that we also talk a bit about what is agile actually, right? I mean, we touched this now, and it's used very much as a buzzword. I think I have heard it 1,000 times, and I was already fed up with it before we looked into that, because everybody says agile, and agile is so fancy and so on, and then you're already a bit sick about hearing that in companies which roll that out. But in the end, I think it was cool to look into that. So Tore, what is agile about? What means agile?
To me, it is being flexible, of course, and applying all these methods that are in this area with the Scrum and the Kanban to be able to work in an uncertain environment and be flexible and adapt to the situation, basically, and making use of the tools we have at hand.
Yeah, and this situation changes around us. I mean, some people call this the VUCA world, right? I mean, we are getting faster in the development of the technologies. Probably also the disruptiveness of industries is more prominent today. Faster penetration of market. These are things which we see particularly in the digital age, and now the household appliance industry, which we are working in, is getting finally to this digital age. I think it's not a a miracle that all of our appliances in latest a couple of years will be connected, right? Does this change the request to a patent department also?
I still think we have the products that we typically deliver to the clients and services. But I think what it changes is sort of our understanding of the client situation or the company situation as such. Because we have seen a lot of new terminologies being used in the company. And if we cannot sort of understand what they mean with the sprint or Scrum or so, we don't really know how to fit in this context in a good way, and what we should do. So that's one of the very important reasons why I think we need to embrace this kind of methodologies to work on and becoming agile.
What is that, becoming agile? Is this applying methodologies, which we will talk about a bit, or?
Yeah, I would say so, but also it's a shift in mindset. We have, for example, the manifesto for agile software development, which was developed in the 80s, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. It's relatively early ideas, but what is in there? I mean, if you talk about mindset, what is this mindset of being agile?
It's excuse me. It's this manifesto has 4 areas, and it's people in the focus, value creation in the focus. So individuals and interactions over processes and tools. You have.
Does this mean that we don't like processes and that we should run a patent department without processes?
No, absolutely not. We need to have for specific situations we need to apply this, but it's not applicable in all situations. And for that we have the Stacy matrix.
But if we stay with this manifesto, I think there is this logic that we say we have to apply another mindset, and it says, okay, processes and tools is important, but individuals and their interactions is more important, right? I think this was
exactly.
Yeah. And I think also about the product, right? Whatever we create, the product is important.
Yeah.
It's important to document, but the product is more important than the comprehensive documentation. And it's about change, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I recently heard one of our colleagues saying, we have decided this many years ago when Hans was here, and maybe it's still a good thing. But I think also this is now something like, should we follow the plan, or should we probably adapt the plan relatively fast? And I think the buzzword here is respond to change.
Exactly. Flexibility is important in this. And then we also have the 4th one, actually, it's the customer satisfaction as a basic attitude here. So customer collaborations we talk about in this manifesto over contract negotiations.
Correct. Yeah. And this is what Ricardo just wrote in the chat. I mean, you should not ignore your customer, right? If everything around you undergoes this change, how can you satisfy actually all the requests and the departments which actually might be already agile? Ricardo, was it that where you were pointing to, or?
Yeah, therefore, it was earlier you discussed this about the organization, and so it was changing. And I was thinking just because as understood before that everything was good already. So why change? And I think, as you said, like, hey, everyone goes agile and this. And I remembered from the software guys, they had this issue too, that the software development was faster than the rest of the organization, which means they really like it was harming the software development, just slowing it down. Because, for example, the sales couldn't make it up, the approvals for budgeting or so was once a year, so there was a lot of issues. I think therefore it's like I believe you did very well. I have a second question, which is just came up. You said about the Agile Manifesto and this with all the values, and what would be interesting, I don't know if you explain it later, is how to teach that to non-Agilists and make them there, because it's I think on a logical level it's easy. On a cultural level,
no,
absolutely right.
That's one of the challenges. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's, as Tore said, it's more about mindset than about applying the methodology. And I think this is something, in the beginning, there was a little start of a movement here. Yeah, and we talked a lot about that. What's the mindset and how can we change the mindset of the people? Yeah, because it is about going a bit away from the process. Yeah, and I mean, we started there that Christian's German team had I think 20 pages document of detailing the process of how you do prosecution. Yeah, everything was regulated, and then Tore came. Tore, what did you say? You can disclose it, I think.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
I think I called it the administrative monster, didn't I?
And I was so pissed. I mean, how can he dare to say that? I mean, this was a lot of work, right? But in the end, I think we understood that it's good to have this process, but then it's also good to apply it in a softened way, and the people are allowed to consider that the outcome is much more important than following this administrative plan. And I think this is one thing which we learned to really engage with each other and talk more about the product. Yeah, we want to have a good portfolio. We want to have a good strategy. We will come to that later. But Tore, does this mean that we now apply this to everything? So we tell the EPO, the European Patent Office, they now have to become agile, and we will if we comply with the time box which they said, and we keep the priority here, it's good. If not, they have to deal with it. Is this the logic?
No, of course not. No. And this is also, I mean, what we have learned. Not all projects is suitable to run in an agile setup, for sure.
How can you distinguish? I mean, which are not?
The key word is the Stacy matrix. I think is a good starting point. You can Google it. We don't have it to show right now, right? But it's.
Or we can work very agile. It's a bit in German, but I think you can explain very nice on that.
Then you can. So you have the simple in the bottom left, and you have chaos in the upper right here. And then you have everything in between here. And you can see the Kanban and Scrum methodologies there in the complex area. So that's where basically projects that are suitable to run in an agile setup with these methodologies, where you should use these methodologies. And then in the lower left corner, it's more the waterfall project where you can sort of plan
probably a better one, which is in English, right? And I think what we saw is that there is this axis on the X where you say it's close to certainty, so you know which technologies with methods you have to apply, and then on the epsilon axis the requirements. So this is close to agreement. You know what you would like to have, and if you know what you would like to have, and if you know how you get there, it's simple. And here, I think you don't need to think about agile. You don't even to think about big project management, right? But if you go a bit away from that and you say, it's not so sure what I want to achieve, and it's not so sure how I can get there, then it's getting complicated. And I think this is classical R&D work. In the beginning of the development in our company, it's probably not 100% sure how the end product looks like. And here, the waterfall model is super applicable. And I think then, Tore, then starts this, right? If it's getting complex.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I like the anarchy, right? Because this is logic. I mean, if you have no clue where you go, if you have no clue how, then you should probably not apply anything. Yeah, you should start to explore first. Yeah,
exactly.
So I think that was a big learning for us to say, well, how do we get complex things done? Yeah, if it's a bit uncertain what we would like to achieve here, if it's not very clear where we want to go, and also not the methodologies which we apply. And I think this is the domain where agile methodology is absolutely applicable. And in order to tackle them, you need this agile mindset. Yeah. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So let's put that away again and look back to our plan here. Yeah, you said Scrum. You used this buzzword, and I thought Scrum is for software development, or it's even better. Scrum is this thing which the football players do before they go into the huddle, I think, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, it is for sure developed for software development. So this is a challenge for us to sort of take this in and embrace and then adapt it to our context, where we But basically, Scrum is a framework for team collaborations to solve the complex problems. So it's a set of rules that you need to apply on how to work. Do we have something to show there also, Christian?
No, we just do it, I think, in talking. So I think that Scrum, for me, was the big learning was there are some roles, and the roles don't have necessarily a hierarchy. So there is a product owner, and he owns the product, and he says basically what we work on. So he says, this is the backlog, guys, and this backlog has this priority. So the team which is working on then, which is the second role, they just draw here. Now today we are a product owner team, and you are our stakeholders, but there is one person lacking. This is probably Carla. She's the facilitator, and the facilitator completes the team, and the facilitator ensures that the rules are followed, so that we end this meeting in time, that we set up the meeting right, etc. And I think this is a lot about the roles in Scrum, that they have no hierarchy, they have split responsibilities. The team will not touch the priority of the work. The priority is part of the product owner, but the team says how we do the work, because they are the specialist.
And that was pretty interesting. There was a new terminology for me. That was the user stories that the product owner should create. So the product owner creates the user story and then adds it to this backlog, basically. And then there is a discussion in the team, and the team then defines what are the activities. If this is the user story that the product owner wants to create or have in the end, what are the activities we should do in order to do this? And then they sort of create these activities as they see it. So
that's the first time when I understood what our design thinking department, our innovation management departments actually do. They deliver these user stories and say, here is a persona like Karl wants to have an oven which delivers greatest taste, etc. And the R&D says, well, this is not a product. You're right. It's an expectation. It's a story of a user. And I think that here also in the product development of, for example, a software, it is exactly this logic. The product owner provides the user story, and the team says, aha, now we have to develop an oven which. And in this journey, they have to develop all of the different tasks which have to be done. And the Kanban board, as shown here, is probably a good tool also, which is often used in Scrum, but actually these are two separate things to administer things in an agile way. And then I think we should also talk a bit about the events in Scrum. I mean, Scrum teams work 24 hours like that, right? So what is a sprint? We set sprint here, 60-minute sprint.
The sprint is basically the time the team can work on the task to deliver on the user story, and in the end create what we call a minimal viable product. I think that's the right time to introduce the minimal viable product terminology here. It's your delivery that you are not ashamed of to present. I think this was also learning that but you are not ashamed of to present, because there were discussions in the teams. I recall that no, but we cannot really present this. This is too embarrassing. So there has to be some kind of level here on what you present, of course.
And maybe you need several sprints until you reach such a minimal viable product which you really can show to the client. But I think if we make this finger sign and we talk about sprints, I think this is also something. It's going in cycles, it's going in increments, and you want to improve and improve and improve. And I think that was something new to us as well, right? We should have constant feedback, and in Scrum this is organized with the sprint, and then at the end of the sprint there is a very important meeting which is called the review.
Exactly.
How did we set this up actually? I mean, maybe we can go into that a bit.
That's right. It was you, Christian, who got the agile people on board to train us in the patent leadership team. So you had the contact there.
It's not without knowledge. You have to prepare a bit the scene, right?
Was it a one-day training or so that we sort of all had to learn this? And then we had a few initiatives in the team that we said we should make use of these in this initiative that you called Kairos, that we call Kairos. And we said also that the leaders should be the product owners in this.
Why that? I mean, we just said we should not have hierarchy, right? I mean, why then? Why the hell did we decide to put the product owners in here? Yeah,
now
the leaders as product owners.
Yeah, we should walk the talk, and we should be the ones that sort of is there to get the feedback, to do the failure first, and the other one can feel a bit more comfortable behind the
lead by example, probably. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And we had to spread this knowledge. I mean, in the beginning, nobody knew what is a sprint. Nobody knew how you set it up. What is a Kanban board? Some in the organization worked with this already, right? And then I think one thing was we have set it up in initiatives. Probably this we should say. So we have created small teams, like little squads, which work together. Yeah. And I think the cool thing was it was really multicultural, right? It was not the German team doing this one, the Swedish team doing that one, right? We have put the teams together and mixed them up and made them struggle with each other.
Yeah, exactly. We also set the time to allocate for everyone, which I believe was 4 hours a week to dedicate to this initiative to start with. And this was some struggle with this in part of it, but that was part of the rules from the beginning, at least.
I mean, what was it all about? I mean, I think we should probably share a bit what the topic of the initiatives was. Yeah, Tore said 4 hours. This was our time box for the whole initiative, and it was on top of the daily job. We promised that we try to free this time, and if we later go to the challenges, I think this was one of them. It was not about structuring now in the first wave of this. It was not about structuring the essential pattern work, right? It was more about continuous improvement, to improve a lot of things which we have seen, which we might get better in.
Two of the initiatives that I was the product owner was quarterly report and also the strategy that we can go and talk about later more in details. What were the challenges and so on. And for this we created these squads, as you said, squads.
What was the aim of this, the reporting, for example?
The reporting was that we have had under a couple of years some preparatory work already done to have quarterly reports to the clients, basically informing them about the number of invention disclosures that we have received for a period, the number of filings, the portfolio, how it looks, cost follow-up, basically are some parts of in this report that we should present at these quarterly meetings to make sure that the clients stay up to date with the latest information and knows what is going on.
Yeah, and this went really a very interesting journey, because in the end I can dare to disclose that we really made a live reporting system which basically is updated and very flexible in reporting our, for example, the setup of our portfolio, a portfolio presentation, something like that.
But so we started where we were, and that was kind of a sort of distributed area. There was a structure, but many of the attorneys have their own sort of presentations and PowerPoints. So that's from where we started. And then, so in this project, then we took the starting point, and then we delivered, or in the first sprint, we had a sort of, okay, this is how it should look. And there was a PowerPoint and so on. But what became clear quite early in this phase was that these Excel sheets and PowerPoints, it's not good enough. It didn't pass sort of the embarrassment level, we realized after a while there. So we needed something else, actually.
Somehow I knew that Excel is not enough. Tore, our time box is gone here. We are done with the second 15 minutes. So maybe we can really dig into that and say, hey, what was the challenge there, and what was the learnings in all of this?
Oh yeah, that's true. I'm already almost into that. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, I already fail on showing how a Kanban works. We should put that under done if it's done, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, go.
Yeah, no, please, Christian, you can take it from there.
I remember that you said fail gloriously, and maybe we connect to this, yeah. And then we said, well, the product owner should be probably the leader. Why?
Yeah.
And how did that go wrong?
Yeah. The first review meeting was a pretty interesting session, I think, for both you and me. So we had never done this before. We didn't really know what to expect and what to do, more than that we should present the MVP, which started to become clear to us also. And that meeting was a lot of learnings for everyone, I think, also for us.
What happened, actually?
Yeah,
you made an idiot out of yourself, right? And I made an idiot out of myself. That's the truth, right?
Yeah. No, but this was a challenge, really. But we really learned. And what did we learn? I mean, this feedback, how people feedback based on what they see. I mean, visualizing the MVP is extremely important, because when you visualize it, then people will see, and then they can comment on it. So, but you don't really know what they will feedback on. So there was feedback all over the place, I think. And this was learning for me, at least, that I can recall.
And for me, I can say that really seeing us failing, going away from this. I am the leader. I have an attitude which shows even less failure, allows less errors. There, I got a lot of positive feedback also in the back about us, that we really dare to do that. Stand there and really show them, hey, this is new. And today, I would say now with a bit more of horizon talks, it's blue ocean, right? We went to a place, to a level of knowledge where we could not lead by teaching. We could just lead by example. And we were there. We failed, and we failed gloriously. And I think this was a good sign also to all the others. Ricardo, you asked us that. How can you change the mindset? And I think it's a lot about changing the mindset by leading by example, by embracing this, by encouraging the people, and then always also refer back to that and say, it's good that you do that. I think you taught us something very important in that you shared, for example, what was going wrong. And by constantly applying this every day, there is a very cool talk, TED talk from Simon Sinek, who says, when did you start to love your wife? And he starts with a very nice example, which I can share. It was going to the gym. If you go to the gym today and you stand in front of the mirror this evening, what will you see? Nothing. So you go the second day, you go to the mirror, and what will you see? Nothing. So you could stop, because it will obviously not work. No, the opposite is true. It's something which you measure over a longer distance. And I think when we look today, this is now, I think 9 months, Tore, right? That we do this journey.
Yeah, I think
we can also conclude and basically measure the collaboration between the teams is much higher. The failure-proof environment is there.
Risking any sympathy for me is what didn't went out in the 9 months.
Where we failed?
Yeah, this is called challenges, and therefore I said, okay, I take it. You walk the talk.
Fair enough. We are prepared for that. But I hand over this question to Tore.
So I didn't really hear the question. So
the challenges, where did we really fail?
In the 9 months, what didn't went out, where we said, okay, that there was a failure, or that's not suitable, or
Yeah, okay, yeah. So the good thing when you do it like this, you only have small failures, even though they may feel big at the point in time. But so basically, after this first review meeting we had, we retreated, of course, me and Christian also, but more importantly also with the teams, because they were all there. They sat and saw the show. So we did have a debrief, of course, and then so now, okay, you saw what happened. We have this product that we delivered here. People comment on it. What should we do now in the team? I turn the question to the team. so how should we do it now? And then the team came up with all the solutions and all the sort of what we should do, which was super good, I think.
Which is a classical retrospective, which is one of the events also which in Scrum is used, right? What is going well, what is going not so well in the team, not on the project, and then you also incrementally improve the team setup, right? And I think I remember the second sprint, which was already much more on the point and also the feedback. Hannes, hey, here is a question. We take it, or?
Yeah, thank you very much. I wasn't sure whether it's allowed or not, but actually, I think it's really interesting what you just tell. I got a question. I understood you need a failure culture to start working agile. And Tore, I think you just mentioned this first review meeting where you just went in and you did not know at all what would come actually out. And I think my question is, how did you manage that actually? Because you're a leader, you have everything in control, you are structured, you know what happens, and then you go into a meeting and you really don't know what will happen. I mean, I think as far as I understand Agile, that's really something that you need that to lead yourself in a way. I would be interested on that.
I think what helped us in this situation was that we had agreed in the patent leadership team to do this together. So we had support from our colleagues. We were aligned in this, and this is where we are heading, and we need to do this in order to change. And that support, I think, is important to have if you start this initiative, and understanding among the peers.
And a bit of crying probably as well. Silent in the night. Mike, hey, cool to see you.
Confidence, of course. I mean, I really trust in this sort of methodologies. So as long as if you don't really are sure about it, then I think it's maybe harder. But if you really trust it and believe in it, then it's a different story, I think. Yeah.
Mike, I put you on spotlight. Cool to see you here. Yeah. Thanks for visiting us.
Yeah, I think it is really interesting how you did this. And I had a question. Do your boards and roles extend across all the departments that you interact with as well?
Good point. Not yet. So in one of the initiatives, Tore really invited the stakeholders from the business also to show, for example, the reporting to them. And I think this is something which is an ultimate next step. So we will talk about the next steps. At the moment, we kept that very much within the patent department, and also to ensure that we create a failure-safe environment, because I think it's much easier if you and I are out for a beer, which we actually was, and I know you, and I say, oh, Mike, and now I did something which I believe we should talk about. So it's much easier if you're exposed to the same people which go the same journey. And I think if Ricardo says what was one of the big challenges, this was one of the big challenges that we really had to first create this culture. And then, of course, it's important to go to the outside, because in the end, it's clear the customer, the client is not only the patent department itself. It's your business stakeholders, your R&D stakeholders, wherever you want to provide service to, whether it's purchasing or so. And we started to have these kind of meetings, but this is something which we for sure have to do more to really go to the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a very important learning. I think the moment when we introduced the clients, this was sort of really a leap. And also from the learnings that, okay, this is actually how we should do it. But it was good to have the internal review meetings first to get people aligned and the attorneys to be comfortable with the product or the quarterly report and so on. But they can only comment from their perspective. When you put the client on it, then it's a totally different game. You get other feedback, which is not expected.
It's also about confidence, right? I mean, you cannot send out a young patent engineer to a business leader and say, hey, go out there and fail. So there must be a certain self-confidence. And then one thing which we also, I think what we learned is you have to prepare your stakeholders as well. If you show them a minimal viable product and it's deficient because you want to learn only one thing, Michael Kramer, who was one of our coaches here in this agile journey, he said that the backlog is all about what do you want to learn next. And maybe you do not provide a full and holistic overview. You are just interested in one thing. Tore, I remember, for example, we talked about the country strategy and we wanted to show a report which reveals parts of that, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, the rest of the report was not there yet.
No. Mm.
Then the
Exactly.
client might criticize that because he is not mentally set to say, I have to focus on that. This is where they want to have feedback. And this is what we want to enhance now, so that in order of the long journey, we really get to a really good product. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So exactly. So you can select parts of what you want to have feedback on. And that was also one of the important learnings in the beginning. You should be fairly, at least in our context, fairly sort of explain before the brief meeting or the brief meeting that, okay, now we want to have feedback on this part of the product. Because then you get more feedback on what you would like to have and work on.
And do your R&D teams already work Agile so that you could relatively easily plug into their ways of working?
Both, I think.
Partially,
Not
yes.
all.
And Tore and I, we have just gone further with this journey. So we are just coming from a week where we did our education as innovation managers, and we actually did that together with R&D. Yeah, and there is a lot of this thinking train, not only design thinking, but also the agile methodologies.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot together also on this journey, particularly in which areas R&D is already working agile. And again, back to the Stacy matrix. Maybe we have also looked a bit at the wrong end, right? Because at a certain level where you want to get the product on the market, you must follow the gates in order to comply with standards, etc. So there is the space for the waterfall model. There is where we give our deliveries to the checkpoints. But maybe all the innovation creation, all the inventions which you reveal in an earlier stage of the process, there the agile methodologies are applicable and to some extent are already applied. Yeah.
Thanks,
Marijke.
Interesting.
Thanks, Marijke, to talk to us.
Hannes, do you have a question?
I would have one more if it's okay. I would be interested. Actually, you talk now about failures and struggles. Were there situations where you were really surprised how well it went? You know, maybe you made a suggestion and then there was a team and said, "Oh, that's great. We want to have this."
Yeah, definitely. And I probably I can share, because what I did in my initiative was something which I have never thought that you can do it agile, and it was absolutely not about patterns. Yeah, it was about creating a new role, and we had some difficulties in the past with our business assistants. We have a great bunch of people there, but they were not very harmonized in their processes. So the assistants in Tore team worked quite differently than in mine. And we have put them together and let them work there. I was the product owner, and I'm quite astonished how that went. And this was one of these events, Hannes, where it really worked well, right? And there was one thing which was a big enabler. And I think if I saw right, Magnus, you are in the call here. Maybe you can show your video, because Magnus was part of this journey, and he was leading a virtual assistant team at that time. And our idea forward was that we really go away from that we want to harmonize processes, ways of thinking, ways of procedures. Hannes, I mean, you were part of that, training us also, right? That you say, how do you develop a role, right? This is not easy to develop a role in an organization. And Magnus was part of that. And this was probably one of the biggest successes I've ever seen, yeah, because he was in the team, working with the assistants, with me, and we were developing the solutions together. And this was super fast, super efficient. We went very much forward. We applied the Kanban methodology to a large extent. And then in the summer break, where you could suppose they are all on holidays, we stop. And what does that mean for a multifunctional company, a multinational company? Means, well, the Swedes stop working in May. The Germans stop working probably in July, and the Italians go in August, which means actually you can forget about everything for half a year. No, because what happened was, while the Swedes were in holidays, the Germans were taking the lead with the Italians. We were working and pulling and doing things forward. The Swedes were coming back, the Germans went on holidays, and it just rolled and rolled and rolled. And this team was great. They really understood that the Kanban and the responsibility in an agile working mode is on you. You have to pull the work. And there it made click. And now it made fun, because they realized that they really can pull the work on their desk, that they are responsible for the result. And you saw how exciting this was, and how it went further. And in the end, this team really delivered in the end precisely on the date which we thought we could commit. Yeah. And the outcome is now, and this is then, Tore, our time box is anyhow up. We have to move to the outlook to the future. I just do it now. This team will proceed, and this team will work further together, and I hope in this mode. And this is something which makes me really proud, that at the end we saw that here this change of mindset really worked, and that these, in that case, 4 people plus me, that we really applied this constantly and thereby really changed the way of how we work together. But how do we go forward, Tore, from here? I mean, we did a lot of things.
Yeah, we have until 12 o'clock, right?
Yeah, we have still another 20 minutes, right?
20 minutes, okay. Yeah. So, yeah, go forward. We said that, okay, this first initiative is over and done. But we should, of course, move forward here. And what we said is that we as product owners will step back, and we should try to democratize this now.
Why?
To get it to stick and to get people to take other roles in this context. Mm-hmm. So anyone could be a product owner or a team member. And we should also have some kind of agile facilitators in this also.
Right, you remember to one of the biggest challenges, right? I mean, one of the failures was that with start of the initiative, our program manager left the boat. and this is a learning which we had. I mean, you need all the 3 roles to make it really fly. Yeah. And I think why we decided now to step back as leaders was that we also saw that the hierarchy within such an agile team is really flat to non-existent. So if you as a leader personality are in, you tend to push. The people tend to listen and do, and then the roles are mixed up. And I think this is now a new set of journey which we try to do in Kairos 2.0. We retreat, we democratize it. The people should come up with their own ideas, foundate the initiatives themselves, and okay, we have some rules. We said you should be 3 people from 3 countries least, yeah, so that we keep the multicultural work mode. And we are not the product owners, we are out there. Yeah, we look at it from the outside, we are your stakeholders, part of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's the plan going forward. Yeah,
and we need a new PMO.
Yeah, exactly, that's true. So that's basically the outlook for the future, very fast. So there's more room for questions, but also some learnings, I think, because this pull function is, people are not used to it. It's not easy to sort of, okay, now I should also be in this program and I should pull tasks. And I only have these 4 hours on top of everything else. So, and this was a challenge for all of us, also for the product owners, to make room for this in a good way. So this is something we just have to improve, I think, and learn as we go. This is there is no secret source here, really. So that we need to learn better how we can do. Also, another thing that was a challenge in the beginning was sort of defining or setting up the tasks, like you have shown here in this Kanban we have here. So we have the topics here, and that we could finish off in this time, basically. But to do that in a project is not very easy, because sometimes you don't really know how much time a task will take. So and that is just something you have to learn with experience, I think.
Yeah, and one big learning is Agile is not faster, but it is learning faster, failing faster, improving faster, and in the end, it's more fun.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we also had a lot of fun because one part which we did not disclose, it's also about sharing. And I think that we have broken up to a certain degree our silos, showed each other, helped each other to be better. And Tore, for me, most enlightening was that we really sat together, and then I don't know, I do not even recall who it was, said, yours is more important than mine. And if we achieve that level of recognition of each other, that one can say, hey, yours should go first because we think about the priorities together and we are committed to that. That was super cool to see, right?
Yeah, I think that's what I recognize from having done similar project work in an agile manner, that you create transparency and also a team spirit on what needs to be done. And I think that's a big advantage actually of the system. And did you allow everybody to make their own tasks and move them also in the board?
Yes and no. I think that in the beginning, the product owners have very much structured this. Also because we did not work with user stories. We went immediately into the task. But in the teams, there was then a lot of discussion about how and what should we do next. And there came a lot of input from the team because they know better.
Yeah. Exactly.
I realized I have no clue how our invoices are handled, actually.
Yeah,
they
the
know
product
better.
owner should actually stay out of creating the tasks. So that's very true. Yeah.
I can only do mistakes there, and this was then a big learning that you have to let the team enable the team, and some teams really understood that. And then it was great fun to see how they worked in a self-organized and pull way and created tasks, as you said, themselves, and said, we should do that, and I just said, I don't know better. Yes, of course, do so.
And then you really achieved a very nice step in the process, I think, because I recognized the whole thing, and we tried it with quite a few projects as well, but some people are hesitant to create tasks and also to move them from one phase to the next. Because like, is it really finished or not, or did I do this? So at a certain way you create ownership. On the other hand, also some people are hesitant to then make that so visible. That's
but
totally.
That's the case. That's the thing that you have to get over. I mean, the feedback culture of the fail-safe environment. Okay, just move it over. We look at it in the review meeting.
I had that with one of the assistants who just said, am I allowed to do that? I said, what? You are supposed to do that. You should work independent and pull the tasks on your own. There was a lot of learning, and it's still ongoing. I think not all people, I mean, of the more than 40 people which we have are at the same stage, of course. In such a change wave, there is sparkles which lead, which embrace it, which even tell us that we are doing wrong and we should improve on the process. And then there are others which may have the heels in the ground and try to stop the wagon. The great thing is that there is a bulk of people which follows and which embraces this and sees the opportunities.
Yeah, very nice to do it for the department as such. I think that's a really great move.
Yeah, it's about a cultural change, and I think that is what we have not seen in the beginning, to be honest, Mike. Yeah, we were out of for continuous improvement. We wanted to improve this, we wanted to improve that. Yeah, but we have not seen that this is really a cultural change which makes us as an organization better. That's super cool to see the effect already after now. 6 to 9 months.
Yeah. There's a question here in the chat, actually. On which level do you consider the complexity aspect, on the IP operation or on the client project level? I think this can be on many different levels, also stakeholder levels as such, as we set it up, at least with the initiatives.
Yeah.
So it can be all over, actually.
And if we go back to the Stacy matrix, the complexity level is really a bit about what you want to achieve. How clear is what you want to have as a product? Doesn't matter whether it's a role or a setup in the team. We have had now a nice trainer who was creating a working space in an airline. and they applied agile methodologies. Yeah, they didn't know how it should look like, and they have had no clue how to come there. And this makes the complexity. So it's not only about the IP tasks they're in, it's really also about how big is it. Tore, if I remember, the strategy was like that, yeah? When we started
absolutely.
to talk about strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. We can say some words about that. This one turned out to be, or as everyone has said, a huge area. So there was, I mean, it was impossible to have as a initiative. So we started to chop it up in smaller pieces and in a first Kanban, basically. So we have all the areas that we would like to work on. But then we needed to create different channels for each of these. And we could only work on one of these. And we selected, in this case, we selected country strategy to develop a country strategy as one part. And it turned out to be very big in itself. They use the terminology epics when there is a big product. So this was an epic, which we started to look into and create task for.
Ricardo, you raised your hand as well, and Thomas, I would encourage you to just speak up then thereafter, yeah, and make it really agile and interactive.
You said, for example, you had this in the leadership team, we were aligning on task, and then it said, hey, the other person says your task is more important than my task, and therefore please go first with this priority. And this made me think about, and perhaps I have a wrong understanding of corporates, but I know some people, they're very career driven, which means that speaks really good of you as a team, because that someone says, hey, your stuff at the moment has more priority than mine, which maybe could lead for, you know, in terms of career or so, for a negative or so. And what I would be interested in is, how do you prevent this by your agile design or so? That you says you encourage people that they don't have any disadvantage or so. Do you have something like this? Because for me, it sounds you didn't have the challenge because they were a great team, but it may occur or has occurred and you haven't told yet.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot in here, Ricardo. I mean, one thing is I would like to turn it into the opposite. If we now talk about the second wave, which we want to start, where we democratize, we just started, we just prepare it, we collect ideas from the teams. This is also an opportunity. Yeah, an opportunity to step up from your role and say, yes, I want to be in such an initiative, or I have an idea, I would like to whatsoever, yeah, improve, and we just collected, for example, our delivery to the checkpoints. This was one idea which we now got, yeah, and say, hey, super, and you want to lead that? Yes, I want to be the product owner. Then it could be even the opposite, Ricardo, yeah, that people take this as a chance. And it's not about career and the career steps any longer. It's really to be part of a community with which is enriched by continuous improvement thoughts, by this mindset. And then you can take responsibility. And I think a lot is about responsibility. So people which think about career, yes, of course, I'm not out of the game here. I'm thinking about career and so on. And yes, but on the other hand side, was a big teaching from Hannes. When I asked Hannes last Christmas, how does he feel? Hannes, you remember what you said?
I don't know the German word. You need to do it, Christian.
Yeah. Hannes, you said, I want to be effective. Yeah, I want to feel effective. I want or you said, you summarized the year and said, I felt effective. I wanted to, and this was a tough year, right? It was the first Corona year. Yeah, and at the end you said, I felt effective, and this made you satisfied, right? And I learned so much from this one single sentence. I think I want to be effective. I want to show and see that the progress goes, and this is fruitful, Ricardo. Yeah, and if somebody steps up and says, I want to be effective, I want to improve something, that's super cool.
Just a very small follow-up. I know in corporates there's often like that you have to negotiate like your personal objectives and key results, and with that usually your progress is somehow measured and it's used for career. Is it that you also adapted this goal setting process or personal leadership thing, that it's fit with that, or is still?
Partially, yes. So the initiatives in the beginning were decided by the leaders. Yeah. So we sat together and said, okay, what do we think is the most important thing? And we really created a Stacy matrix similar to that and said, what's the most important and how complicated is it to get there? And that's why we said we have to improve our reporting. Maybe this is important and it's not so difficult to achieve, but we don't know how it looks like. We have to get a visualization of our portfolio, which is more interactive to the client, such things. And indeed, this was part of our mission setup, which we have agreed with our current leader. Yeah. So we have fit the little improvements into this mission setting. And that was super interesting. And I was thinking further, maybe you could even make this a bit incentivized, right? To say, I would encourage you to try out, to lead such an initiative. And if you as a leader then make it fit to the overall strategy setup of your team, of your group patterns team, then we are going into the right direction and you secure it by that. And that's pretty cool. I think that's more than just creating artificial KPIs, which you then oh shit, now it's 11th of December. Damn, I have to secure my bonus. Yeah, reality check. I see Mike laughing. I think I got you here. But yes, that's how we are set up often. And I think it makes much more sense to really let such an initiative run, and they all know. And you know what, Ricardo? They will forget that it's about the bonus, because the driving engine is the pride to really improve the responsibility which you take and the added value which you give to the group.
So did this move to Agile impact your interaction with your internal clients? And yes, it did for sure. I think we as a group patterns became a bit innovative because we had to learn new tools. We had in order to sort of have a good MVP in place. Yep. So we actually started to use a business intelligence tool. It's Power BI. And this opened up new channels to communicate with the clients also. So for sure, which we are using now. So that's one thing that happened here, which is awesome, I think, super interesting. And accountability into this Agile approach. There is a say here, which we learned very early. It's the product owner is the single ringable neck.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the product owner is the single ringable neck.
you can, as you know, I'm blunt. Most people in the call know me, right? This is where you hang your butt out of the window. So the product owner is the one who has to satisfy the client. So he is the one who stands in front of the stakeholders that, yeah, that's what we achieved. And if you are not satisfied, please come to me. This is exactly his role. Remember, he is the one who prioritizes and he decides what is the user story all about. Yeah. So the team will then make it good and feedback to him during the review meetings. He can of course adjust and steer that, but in the end, he goes to the client and says, this is what we achieved. Yeah. So he gets all the punishment and then hopefully shares the pride with the team if it goes well.
But it also puts some, I mean, the product owner really needs to study and be on top of everything and ahead and talk a lot with stakeholders, understand their needs and everything. So there's a lot of communication in this role.
And Tore, this we underestimated, right? I mean, on top of our leader journeys, on top of our daily work, we are doing a lot of very busy things, and this we underestimated, right?
Yeah.
To sit there, to plan exactly what the team should work and so on. This took a lot of time, and this is one reason also why we democratized it now. Yeah. And maybe this is one of the biggest challenges also. We said 4 hours per week, and every trainer said, "Are you crazy? You put only 10% of the working time into continuous improvement. This must be much more." Yeah, and we already had tough I mean, yes, true. And we know Slack time from Google and so on, they take a whole day off in the week. But this is not how we set up, probably not set up yet. And the 4 hours were already hurting. Yeah. Because at the same time, I would not say we failed, because I'm not sure if we even are able to achieve that we really free the time of the people to do that, because I remember that my boss, Gerhard, when I prepared for the EQE, said, Christian, you can prepare during your working time, no problem. Yeah, but he didn't tell me that the work will not get less, right? And this is a bit an issue which we have. Real Scrum teams work 24 hours like this. and we did it a bit on top. And we committed to the team.
Dedicated, So they have dedicated team to one product that only work on this product. And that we don't have. And this we need to adapt.
Richard, would you like to just speak up? I like that you announce in the chat that you have a question, but I think probably it's the last one, and then you just show your.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Christian and Tor. So I was wondering, how do you measure the benefit or value that this delivers to you, either internally to within the IP department or externally to your clients or business units? And do you monitor that?
I think that we don't have a measure like a scale, right, Tore? I'm not sure if I get the question.
We don't have a measure, but feedback for sure. That was my immediate thinking. We listen to the feedback. Are they happy or not?
You're implementing what I would call quite a revolutionary change within an IP department. I mean, I've been kicking around this industry for 20 years and worked with over 50 corporate IP departments, and I've never known anyone implement an agile methodology within the IP department. So bravo for breaking ground. Maybe I'm sure there must be others out there. But I'm just wondering, if I was going to do something evolutionary, and I applaud you for doing it, I would want to measure it beforehand and measure the effectiveness afterwards and work out have what I've implemented, has it worked? How well does it work?
Richard, that's a good idea. I think if I go back to this Simon Sinek talk, how do you measure it over time, right? And sometimes it's not very tangible, but we have a report. It can be still improved. We have a really cool strategy set up where we know, okay, there are some epics which we still have to tackle, but we have some where we have achieved. We have a new allocation of assistants and how they work together, and it still can be improved. So I think that it's not about an absolute measure of things. It's more about to understand that it's continuous iterations. And still, I believe you have a point, because how do we measure success in this? Maybe what jumps to my mind is really ask the stakeholders and ask if they are satisfied about what we deliver, right? You have a point. I still am not sure how much, however, we should apply it at the moment, because I think also this measuring will put a certain stress on the teams. And at the moment, in this phase of implementing that still in full into our teams, it needs still this degree of freedom. You can still fail without being fully successful, and thereby it's a wonder how successful we are, to be honest. That is fine.
Good to think about. I will take that with me, Richard, and think about it and see if there are anything here.
I mean, I'm just thinking that qualitatively it might be feedback from your, I don't know whether you do an annual survey of your business units, your clients, or internally maybe you do a staff.
We do that.
That might be one way.
And that we do actually. So that if they are exposed to this kind of initiatives, it should be part of that feedback we get from them.
Great. I'd be interested to know.
Quick last question, because then I think we are in our time box and can finish on time, and everybody can go to his family and eat lunch. I know we are already over 2 minutes, I see, but this one we allow lean, and then let's go back to lunch.
Okay, actually, I had another note. I want really to thank you for showing the way how you really lead this by example, because I think this is really the more important thing. What would you suggest in really quick dots, if someone will start with what you just told? What would be the most important thing?
Align the leadership team, train the leaders to be on top of these methodologies and theories. Then have a few initiatives that you should start, and then just do it, basically.
Just do it. That what has exactly, Tori. Just do it. I think you need a certain knowledge. That's true, Hannes. You have to dig a bit into this, but in the end, it's just do it. Start where you are and start to improve. This is the most important thing which I learned. Yeah, don't read 1,000 books, make another diploma, and then say, now I'm an expert, and you have seen, oh shit, the train has left the station since long. Yeah, start where you are, do it now.
Yeah.
Guys, it was a pleasure to host this. Thanks for the interaction.
Thank you.
Great that you have been with us, and now get out of here and get for lunch.
Thank you very much, everyone. Great talking to
Ciao.
you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.